Hello, and welcome to Creativity with Don Allen III Live. Today, we're going to be working on making a custom AR filter that is going to be a Halloween-themed hat. We're going to be designing this so that it works across different AR platforms. You'll have to look up what those are later in the stream, but we'll be having this work for different platforms. The software that we'll be using, Cinema 4D, Zbrush, and Substance Painter will be the primary three softwares that we're going to be using today. So let's get right on into it. And we are streaming live to YouTube as well as live to Instagram. So please join me on either spot if you want to follow along and learn about this process. Cool, so let's get right into it. So first off, I found some reference images. This app that I use that has my reference footages, my footage always live on top, is called PureRef. It's a free program. It's P-U-R-E-R-E-F. PureRef is what I've been using to get my reference footage to always stay on top, so that even if I click into another application back here, it still keeps my reference footage on top, which is super, super helpful. This is today's thumbnail, Halloween hat for AR. That's what we're going to be doing. It's kind of a tradition now. And I found this one today and I really, really loved this design. I want to try to make something super similar to it, maybe a little bit more spooky, but absolutely love this kind of look and feel of the cobwebs up there in the corner. I love I really like this design. And then I have some other designs in here for reference in case we're getting stuck. So that's what we're going to be working on today. So let's get started. We brought in a head model so that we know what we're working with. And I'm going to start off by just blocking out the geometry that we need. The first thing we're going to put into there is going to be a cylinder. So I'm going to jump in, make a cylinder. Over here, good old cylinder. Where's my cylinder? There's my cylinder. And then we're going to make this really small because it always comes in too big. So we're just going to scale the cylinder down to make the brim of the hat. I'm going to raise this thing up here and scale that down. Shorten the height there. And let's get that centered on the head. And kind of see what the brim of the hat should be. Maybe make it a little bit thinner for now. This phase that we're in is called blocking, and we're going to start off by just blocking out the rough shapes that we need to convey our Halloween hat. So I'll do that for the brim to start. Let's go ahead and display our grid. Okay, I'm going to go to our cylinder. I'm going to reduce the rotational segments and the height segments. So it's a very low polygon model. And if we go to our caps and our slices, we can also play with that value as well. So I'm going to go to my caps and maybe play with the number of rotational segments if we want it to be blockier. I'm just going to smooth it out a bit. Maybe multiply that. Let's do 32 segments. That feels about right. Great. Next we're going to do is kind of create that little top cone part. So there's a couple of ways of doing it. The one way that I'm thinking of doing it right now would be to start off with the spline tool. So I'm going to switch to an orthographic side view of our hat. So this is like an orthographic view. It's kind of hard to see, so I'm going to turn on my display colors. There we go. And then we're going to create that little curled shape with a spline. So the spline tool looks like a pen tool. It's very similar to a pen tool if you've used Photoshop or Illustrator. The key difference is that it's like a three-dimensional pen tool. So first got to find that pen tool. I kind of forgot where it lives because they've moved the application around quite a bit. There it is, spline tool. And with the spline tool selected, I'm going to make a new layer and just start clicking and dragging to make the shape of the hat. Okay, very rough shape right there. We can still use the spline tool to then correct and clean up edges and kind of smooth out transitions from one shape to the other. So that's what I'm doing now, kind of giving it a little bit of a shape. And it looks like it gets all crooked at the very end, so I might add a little bit more jagged bits at the end there. Okay. Is the reference head an asset in Cinema 4D, or did you just import that? The reference head I found online. In general, you want to find a human head reference that is about the same size as a real human head, because then you won't have to worry about refitting it when you're inside of the AR application of your choice. I'm going to swap out my AR filters here on my end. So I'm going to swap it out with the cat head. There you are. So now I have a cat head filter here. If you're tuning in on YouTube, this is what I look like on YouTube right now as we're streaming. I'm literally wearing a cat head and streaming at the same time. It's very fun. So please join over on YouTube if you want that full screen experience. Okay. Continuing on. All right, so I've got this little squiggly here, and then what we can do is this technique called the sweeper. So I'm going to go to a side view here, or I guess like a perspective view, and I'm even going to shrink my reference footage so it's a little bit less intrusive over here. So I'm just going to shrink that down in the corner. All right, so now that we have this weird little squiggly shape, what I'm going to do is sweep it with a circle. That way we can create that hat cone shape. So I'm going to grab a circle, and then we're going to grab a sweeper. The sweeper is one of the effects in here. I always forget where it is, so I just kind of got to click and find it. Looking for the sweep node. There it is, sweep. So what we want to do is sweep a circle along the spline. Or maybe it's the reverse. Maybe sweep. I always forget the order. Maybe it's the other way. And then I'm going to grab that circle radius and turn down the radius. And let's go up 1 centimeter, 2 centimeters, 3 centimeters, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Cool. Very good, very good. And now that we have that here, we can go to our output at the end of the sweep and go to an end scale. And already we have a lot of what we already kind of need. So now it's a lot of just playing with the end growth and the end rotation. If we want to spin a little bit, we're going to kind of go around like that. Now we can go back to our spline, and if we turn on X-ray mode, we'll be able to see through our hat. And I can grab the splines that are in there and adjust them to fit even better. So I click on the spline. Oops, we just grab a regular point edit mode. So I'm going to grab a spline. Now we can move these splines, and this will allow us to resize and reshape our thing. Oh, give me 1 second. I'm getting a little bit of an emergency message on the other screen here. Give me 1 moment to respond to that. Shared. Okay, what happened? Got a little bit of an emergency text message. Just want to make sure that everyone's okay. Weird, it's not connecting. All right, give me 1 second. I'm gonna have to, oh, it says no sound here. Ah, oh, dang it. Anytime you get a call, wow, I broke it. Oh, snap, dude, please take care of your dog, period. I'm so sorry to hear about that. Period. We can catch up afterwards when it's a better time, period. But for now, just take care of your emergency, period. Oh no. Sorry about that, folks. I'm not sure what happened with the audio, but I think the audio died when the call was being made. Sorry, let me try this again. All right, sorry, I'm going to start the live stream back over on Instagram. Okay, sorry for that. We'll get right back to it in a moment. Hello and welcome. Today we're going to be working on making a witch hat. The live stream got cut from audio, so if you want to see the beginning, you'll have to go over to YouTube. That's where we got to that's where we got to this point so far. We're still early on in the modeling process of this, so feel free to go to YouTube if you want to get the full scoop. Okay, sorry about that. So moving forward, hopefully the audio is working now on Instagram. We are streaming live to YouTube as well. So I'm going to go to my sweep node and play around with the bias, the bias of the growth rotational segments. We can also go to our spline and change our spline angle if we want it to be a little bit choppier or a little bit heavier. I might go a little bit heavier just so it's a little bit smoother. We can also change the type of interpolation. So I'm just kind of scrolling through. Ooh, adaptive looks really good. And next we're going to grab individual points and move these points around to create the swirling shapes and the folding shapes that would happen on this here witch hat. I'm just going to grab this point there and slide that forward and back, and then maybe grab this point, move it down a little bit, grab that point, slide it to the left. So these shapes are going to respond to each other. So as I start to move a shape, you'll start to see that parts of the model will expand and contract. I'm going to bring this down a little bit. Can I rotate a point? No, you can't rotate at this point. Alright, so I'm just going to maybe move that there. Then I'm going to grab all of the spline and slide it to the side here. And give it a little bit of a rotation. And then bring that back on around over there. So kind of just cover the cap of the head. There we go. I'm just trying to flatten out the bottom there. And then attach that to the brim of the hat. Cool. It's looking a little too bulky for me at the base, so I might reduce the circle's diameter from 10 centimeters to something less. Here's 9 centimeters, 8 centimeters, etc. So you can kind of play around with these parameters to get the exact fitting that you would like. I'm also going to rotate this little joint here so that it doesn't kink up the angle of the bone. And do the same thing over here. Cool, cool, cool. All right, and then we'll go to the bottom bone here, wherever that might be. Because I like the thickness of the rest of the hat now, but I don't like the thickness of where it starts. So we'll need to make it wider at that beginning part. So we have a couple options. We can boost the whole overall thickness, which kind of works actually. Maybe I'll just do that. And then I'm going to grab my spline pen and grab a couple of these vectors over here. Kind of bring them in a little bit closer. Maybe even rotate these points around to create some nice new geometry. And then I might even bring the weight of the hat down a little bit from the top by grabbing this point and just moving it down and squeezing it in. And then let's grab this point, maybe move it out a little bit. Looks like this one really does change the rotation quite a bit of the hat. Okay. Cool. Okay. Alright, so now that I'm pretty happy with these generic shapes, we go to our sweep and I'm going to do connect objects and delete. This turns that sweep into a single piece of geometry. And I'm going to get rid of our cylinder temporarily so that we can take the sweep and just fit it a little bit better around the head here. So I'm going to grab the loop selection around the bottom. And then we're going to set this to soft selection. And then with our soft selection added, I'm going to reduce that radius so that we're only affecting a few pixels at a time. And now if we enlarge this, we can get a nice little fanning happening, a fanning effect. So we can fit the hat a little bit better. Alright, let's grab the hat sweep Go around the bottom, switch it to soft selections, increase that radius, and scale up the bottom of the hat, and also move it backwards a little bit so that it fits around the forehead, and it'll taper together on the brim of the head here. Awesome, awesome. Next we're going to go to our edge selection mode, grab the same loop, alright, so with that loop selected, do the same thing where we are going to create the brim of the hat. So to create the brim, I have it selected, and we're going to make sure that our soft selection is turned off. So I'm going to go to selections, turn off soft selection. And if we do MT, that's the shortcut to extrude, we can extrude the points around the edges of the hat. And this will create a nice little guide for our brim. So I wanted to kind of go out to my maximum distance first, get a nice little swoop of the hat by growing it from there, which is great. Yeah, I'm just double checking that I like the line splitting up like that. We can maybe even add a little bit of personality to the hat by giving it a slight tilt to give it some life. I might even tilt it forward so we see a little bit more of the face of the person who's going to be wearing this AR filter. Cool. Very cool. Alright, I'm going to now extrude that down a bit. This will create thickness to the brim of the hat, which is important. And then we're going to create one more extrusion and then scale that all the way back in. This way that we always have geometry to paint on. If we don't do this, then it'll be hard once we get to the painting process to paint the outside of the hat. So it looks like right now the whole bottom half is reversed. You see how there's blue polygons? We want them to all be orange. So I'm going to flip my normals, so now we have all orange facing polygons on the outside of the model, which is what's going to allow us to paint that part of the model. Now I'm going to add some more edge loops. Edge loops are important if you want things to deform nicely, as I will be animating this hat. So adding edge loops to the hat will allow it the ability to bend when we get to that part of the animation process. Cool, so the hat is looking pretty good with the geometry. I'm now going to create some more variations, some more little turbulence and wobbles in the hat. How we're going to do this is there's a couple of modifiers. One of them is called a displacement modifier. They're great. So first off, before I do that, going out of order, I'm going to grab the transition between these two edges and I want to soften it. So I'm going to do the bevel technique. Ooh, it looks like beveling is not a good idea. So maybe to subdivide. No, it doesn't do it either. Are these not connected? Huh. I'm not sure if our model is being connected right now. So let me try this again. If we grab our model here, right click and choose optimize. Is it one model now? Hopefully. If we subdivide this, weird. It's not connecting our geometry together. Let me turn off X-ray mode. I think it thinks these are separate models. Because when I go to grab the edge here, I was hoping that this loop would be attached to the bottom. Oh, it is attached. Okay, I don't know. Huh. I don't know what the problem was then. So weird. Is there another tool for beveling? We click on here and choose our bevel options. Weird, I don't see it beveling, so it feels like it's not attached. That definitely is attached. Okay, I'm not sure what's happening right there, so I might just manually add some subdivisions right by the corners. And then with that outer edge, I can now enlarge it and create a nice little transition. That's all I wanted to do, was just create a little soft rounding transition between those two parts of the hat so that we get that flexibility, a little bit of light will bend nicely along that part of the hat. That is all. And I'm going to shrink this in a little bit, forward and So I just decided to add my own little bevel manually by adding those loops there. And same idea for the brim of the hat. I would like to add a bevel here as well, or a beveled edge. So I'm going to grab both edges of the hat. And yeah, and then we're going to go to right click and choose bevel. And now we can add a little bit of a soft bevel to these edges so that they're not coming across like bricks. We can smooth out the edges. And this, just adding an extra edge here will make it feel like a more natural hat, because that, a hat would probably have like a soft brim versus it being like a hard 90-degree turn. Additionally, we can go to our top-down view, which will be helpful at this point. So there's a top-down view of the hat. And then what I'm going to do is go to point selection mode. And now with the point selection mode turned on, we're going to just go through and grab every other two. I'm holding shift to skip every two points, every two vertices, skip two, grab the two, skip two, grab the two, skip two, grab two, skip two, grab two, and skip two, grab two. Cool, so now we have them on every other corner. You see the little orange dots. We can now go to a side view or a quarter angle view, and I can move these up and down. Oh, weird. I thought I was selecting everything. It looks like it was only selecting the top faces. So let me go back to this top-down view, and under our selection modifier, I'm going to turn on not visible only. So now it's going to select through the model. So I'm going to grab these, skip two, grab the next two, skip two, grab two, skip two, grab two, skip these two, grab these two, skip these two vertices, grab these two vertices. I'm going to repeat the step a couple of times here. Skip two there. Boom. Boom. All right. Now that we've done that, we can go to this side view here, and I can offset these. So I can create a little bit of wobble inside of the hat. Now, if we were to switch these to a soft selection, oh yeah, for those of you that are joining, we are making a wearable AR filter that will work across different AR platforms. So I'll just say wearable AR filters. We are streaming live to Instagram or to YouTube right now, so that this resource will be available for other folks. Okay. Next, we're going to switch our selection type from normal to soft selection. By enabling soft selection, that means we're going to get a nice gradual transition, which will make for a lot more flowy hat. Right now it's a radius of 10 centimeters. I'm going to reduce that a little bit. So now it's around 7 centimeters. And this will create a nice little wobble to our hat that's like a controlled wobble. Maybe 7 centimeters is too much. Let's maybe lower it to even 5 centimeters. There we go. So now it's kind of just the edges that are going to get this little baby wobble. Just a little bit to break up the edges. So I just kind of selected every other two, and then we're adding a little bit of wobble to those vertices. Now I'll increase the radius, reduce the strength, and then do the same thing. Cool. So just by adding that little bit of flexation to the hat, it's going to look a lot more realistic when we move into the next phase. Noticing that we should also add some edge loops underneath the hat, otherwise they're going to bend incorrectly when we get to the, they're going to bend poorly when we get to the animation part, when we start animating the hat. So adding edges like this is a crucial step before you deform things. Okay, cool. All right, so this hat is looking pretty sweet for the core geometry. Looks like a pretty friendly, wearable little hat. Looks like it's a lot more oval in shape than I maybe anticipated or wanted, but that's okay. I'm going to grab my sweep, select the outer rings, the outermost ring, then go to our soft selection, and I'm just going to make it more of a circular shape by extending it out there. There we go. That feels more like a witch hat. Sounds like a big circle brim. Cool. All right. Next, I really like these like vines that kind of coil around each other like this. In the past, I would have just textured these on as like a, like a pattern I would illustrate on here. But I actually want to try to sculpt this really intricate weaving pattern. And I want to show you how I would go about doing something like that. So to create the weaving pattern as like an ornament on the hat, first off we're going to save our project, because you never know when stuff's going to crash. So I'm just going to save this into the hat, just a random spot, and save it there. Okay. So we're going to create this coil that wraps around the hat now. So how we're going to start off to making that is starting off with a helix. So I'm going to go to my shapes and choose helix. The helix by default is gigantic, so I'm going to reduce the radius to maybe 1 centimeter and have it end at 1 centimeter as well. Oh wait, what was that? Oh, that was the height. Actually, that's so fine, that's okay. And I meant the outer radius, I wanted to be 1 centimeter. So now we have this tiny little loop, which is great. Let's make it a little bit taller though. So I'm going to go to the helix height and then increase its height quite a bit. So it's almost like a little string. Alright, so now we have a little string coil. I'm going to increase the height even more. There we go. Great. Now we're going to use that same method as before, and we're going to sweep that shape along it. So I'm going to grab my n-gons and then grab a sweeper node. And if you're having trouble seeing all these buttons, please just join us on YouTube. That's where we're live streaming the full screen with all the details. And we're going to go ahead and sweep the n-gons by the helix. By default, it's too large, so we need to take our n-gon radius and bring it down till it's about the width of a single cornucopia. I might need to set this to like 0.4 centimeters. Yeah, that feels about right, maybe even less. Let's go 0.2 or 3. Yeah, it feels good. Next, we're going to reduce the amount of splitting that's happening. So that's the degree angle here. And then the helix is also the number. So I'm going to reduce that. So now we're getting a really nice thin coil. See that? We have this nice little coil here. Hey Dogwood, welcome. All right, so with this coil, we now just need to use what do you call it? A cloner to clone this coil and duplicate it into 3 axes. So I'm going to go to my MoGraph cloners and put this as a child of the clones. We're going to set the clone to a radial clone, and that creates this kind of cool stringy effect. You can use this technique to make spider webs and stuff. So I'm just going to increase the number to like maybe 3, and then we're going to take our transform rotations and rotate the, I think, y-axis, or wait, where's rotation? Let's scale, I think it's this one. Can't tell which one to rotate. That's along that axis. Okay, so it's this axis. Let's rotate this 90 degrees. And then we'll set the distance between these to like 1 centimeter. And by doing that, we're going to create a nice little coil for our 3 strands. So I'm going to set the radius maybe to 0.3 centimeters. And now, just like that, we have ourselves a little coil. And it's highly customizable. We can take that. I'm just waiting for the bend deformer part. Oh yeah, that's definitely coming. And we'll be baking it down eventually. So I'm going to maybe increase the number of coils to maybe 4. And then we'll go to our n-gons, and I might increase the radius to maybe 0.4 centimeters. That's looking a little bit thicker. Maybe even go higher than that. Let's say 0.6. Cool, they start to overlap a little bit. Maybe give our n-gons a 5th side so that they're a little bit rounder. There we go, so we get these little pentagons. We have 5 pentagons. And that's how we would make this coil. So now we have a really nice stringy coil. And you guessed it, we do need a we need to circularize it. So I'm going to grab my bend deformer, and or we could use a wrap deformer. Actually, a wrap deformer is probably better. So for the wrap deformer to work, we need to give it a shape to wrap around. So I'm going to give it a circle as a guide. There we go. So we made a little circular guide. I'm going to reduce that radius, push this over here, and now we're going to wrap those coils around that circle. You said it needs more jiggle. What do you mean? Like turbulence? I think you're talking about turbulence. So I'm going to use this wrap deformer where is it? They have shrink wrap and they also have wrap. So I'm going to try wrap first, and we want to wrap this cloth along this circle. So let's see if that works. Okay, no luck with the regular wrapping. It doesn't appear to be wrapping around very well, so might need to change some things around. Maybe not wrap. Maybe we need to wrap this. Maybe we have to use the shrink wrap. So let me grab a shrink wrap modifier. And yeah, let's grab this cloner, and then we're going to turn on shrink wrap. Where's shrink wrap? Oh, there's shrink wrap. And then in the shrink wrap, we're going to target it to that circle. Oh, weird. It doesn't work with circles. Huh. I don't know how to wrap this around my target. Or does shrink wrap only work on geometry? In that case, then we would need to wrap it around a torus and reduce that torus radius and its pipe radius. Let's see if the shrink wrap can work along a torus. Whoa, it's not working for the torus either. Target object, align normals. Huh. What's the best way? Use a bend deformer and then sculpt it. Oh, gotcha. So not even using that at all. So just go straight to a bend deformer. That works too. Let's do that. So let's grab our cloner and then turn on our bend deformer. Set our bend deformer as a child of the clone. Whoa. Oh, no, not child of the clone. I don't want to clone the bend. I guess we should clone the sweep. Wait, my brain's breaking. My brain's breaking. I'm forgetting how to bend this geometry here. I might have to look at a basic tutorial of how to use the bend deformer, because I'm just forgetting. I'm forgetting the hierarchy of how it thinks. Yeah, so I'm bending it. I'm bending or trying to bend the geometry here. But I'm forgetting where it needs to be a child of the object. So I'm totally forgetting. Use a child of the null. Okay, part of the null. Use bend deform. Okay, part of the null. Oh, so I should put all this under a null object and then bend the null object? Is that what you're saying? Yep, that was it. All right, cool. So now it bends along the path, which is awesome. Looks like we need to make it a lot longer. So I'm going to go to our coordinate system, and I'm just going to make the n-gon helix height larger so it can grow more. Or set this to keep length, or set this to unlimited. Unlimited. Mode is set to unlimited, keep length. Fit to parent. I don't know why I'm forgetting. Oh, I see the size is right there. There we go. So I just got to reduce this size to right about there. Perfect. And then just push it up a little bit. Link it around. Is that 90 centimeters? That's 82 centimeters. Cool. Well, actually, this is a good technique for making some sacred geometry stuff. I'll use this for a later time. Thank you so much. And now I can take this null object, and I should allegedly be able to rotate it and stuff. Yeah, 90 degrees. Cool. And then place this in the witch's hat area. I'm going to place another null object so it's a little bit easier for me to manipulate this. So let's move this guy down till it's got a world center. Then I'll parent that to my null, and now I can just move this single null object to fit the thing to the hat properly. Thank you, Dawood, for helping me out with that. All right, cool. So we made our little banded thing. Oh, you said make it more wavy. Gotcha. Yes. I'd be happy to make it more wavy. So we can go to our helix now. We can add more turns. Whoa. There we go. So just adding another turn. We can also change our radius bias and our height bias. And now we'll create the turbulence. So that's the convenience of building something procedurally, is instead of having to instead of having to remodel all of that, we're able just to change a few parameters in our procedure and we get a completely different architecture, which is super cool. Because now it's like larger in other areas, and it's more wavy like you're saying. Oh, I see what you mean, sculpted for fitting. Yeah, good call. Before I get to sculpting it, I want to see how far I can push the proceduralism. So we can also throw in, if I go to our n-gons, I'm debating adding another hexa to make it a six-sided. Or actually that's 8 sides, so now it's a lot smoother. Cool. Great. All right, so we got those vines, a little different from theirs, but that's fine. We can also go to our cloner. We can change things like the count. Maybe there's only, that's just 1 right there, and then if we turn up our proceduralism, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's 6. Let's do 4, because 4 creates little gaps in there. Oh, make backup before sculpting. Oh, you're so right. Well, what I'll do is I'll probably want to model all the other stuff on the hat first, and then once I'm happy with the whole model as one piece, then I would want to move to baking it down and sculpting it, because we'll have to do that anyway when we get to rigging. But in the meantime, I want to still keep that flexibility of using the procedural ways of modeling this thing. For now, we'll switch it up. I pinky promise. Oh, is this hat set in stone though? Did I already bake this all down? Oh yeah, it looks like I did, huh? Shoot. I guess I'll need to sculpt some stuff onto there, which we'll do a little bit later. Okay. Excuse me. The next thing I want to sculpt is these little leaves, little cool leaves like that. So to make the cool little leaf thing, we're also going to build that procedurally. So I'm thinking we start off with a single sweep node from earlier, and I'm going to change some parameters on it. First off, we're going to make it spin a lot less. So it's something like that. And then we're going to take the n-gon sides and reduce it to like 2. Or I guess 4 is the minimum. Maybe we'll do 5. And then we'll take a cloner and we'll clone some leaves onto this object. So the leaves will just be little smoothed out rectangles. So I'm going to make a leaf geometry thing now. Or actually, we might be able to get away with it just being a plane. So to keep the file size smaller, yeah, because it doesn't need to be 3D. That's going to be a 2D sprite. So let's just create a single little plane. We'll set the number of subdivisions to 1 by 1 for now. I'll scale this plane down. Yeah, just like that. Great. And then I'm going to clone this thing to another shape. Oh, getting a message. I'm 1 minute away from the house. Are you hungry? We have some leftover. Hey, love, comma. I'm okay for food. I'll probably just eat some leftovers, period. Love you. Period. Would you like me to order you something? Question mark? Okay. So we got this plane here, and if we go to cloner, we can clone this plane and make the clone object be this surface. So I'm going to grab my cloner and choose the clone type of object, and then we'll set the object to be this sweep node. There we go. So now we've cloned the leaf onto there. And then what we can do to modify it is go to our plane and adjust the anchor point. Or we could just kind of keep it like that. Let me see. Where is the edit options? There we go. So I can make the leaves smaller. And I kind of wish I moved the anchor point a little bit so that it was, so right now it looks like the leaf is like occluding through the stem. The hat is a little curvy. Oh yeah, I'm going to sculpt a lot more details in Zbrush. I'm just trying to create the base geometry. Amazing. I love you too, baby. I'll see you super duper soon. Exclamation mark. Cool. All right, so now what was I doing? Oh yeah, I was trying to move the width and height. So, okay, that's the height. Where's the distance from object? There's got to be an option to play with that. Oh, there. Seed, align to clone. Yeah, and then object, end scale, and rotation. That all looks good. I'm trying to think of the best way to get these to stick properly. So let me grab my plane and solo it out. And I'm going to try to move the anchor point to one side. Oh weird, it won't let me move it. Oh, because it's not an object. Now it should work. Or it's not an editable object. Now it is. Okay, so I'm going to move that to this side here. Then turn this back on. And looks like, I don't know if it's working. Oh, there we go. So I just kind of move this right about 3 centimeters. That way the leaves will all come off of the object. So if I go back to my sweep, adding some rotation to my sweep, building a little procedural branch system here. Cool, so we can now slide our leaf and attach it to the stem. And now that that's set up, we can add some loop cuts to the leaf to shape it. And we can grab individual edges. And I can now make a little bit longer leaves on the thing. So just by doing this little trick, it's a way of having a leaf system. Now you're probably noticing I'm sculpting the, yes, we're sculpting it in a way that it's flat like this, so that we're given flexibility to do some other pretty cool stuff. So, for example, now that it's all set up, we can, sorry, it's having trouble just letting me, it's not letting me circle around this object. There we go. Now we can like add curvature to those leaves and do all sorts of cool stuff with the geometry. We're gonna add a loop cut down the center and then take the loop and move it downwards. And now we have like a leaf that will curl. We can also then take a couple edges of this thing with our selection brush. I'm gonna grab the end of the leaf here and just give it a little twist. And do the same thing with this part of the leaf. Grab this part of the leaf and then we'll give that a little twist. And so now we have a leaf system that is attached to a stem procedurally, meaning we can do stuff to our stem with the helix. I can rotate it differently. I can give it a different start angle. And now we'll have leaves that grow on the stem at any angle. And we can just paint the rectangle and the leaf will translate to any shape. So I love proceduralism for exactly this reason. So we can have like a really complicated, system that is going to work really well with leaves. We can now also add more or less clones of the leaf. So I'm going to go to the count. Right now it's 20. We can increase it or we can decrease it. And that looks good. And then I'm going to go to the seed. You can randomize the leaves procedurally as well. And then finally, we're going to go to our leaf system, and I'm just going to enlarge it a little bit. So now we can have larger or smaller leaves. And as long as we make sure that it's connected to the stem at the end, which it is right now, just by making sure that our vertices match that point, our procedural leaf system is going to stay attached to this little stem. And so now I'm going to save this whole system out as a procedural leaf. So I'm going to group this with Alt-G. I'm going to call this leaf and branch underscore system. We can now take that entire leaf and branch system and bring back our Halloween hat. And I can take the whole system and rotate it around and fit it into different spots on our witch's hat. So I'm going to take our procedural leaf system, bring it out over here, and kind of follow in suit with what they did there. So I'm just going to take our leaf system, rotate it comfortably over here, and then tilt it up, and then get this to kind of stay attached to our witch hat. One thing you might want to do too is align your world plane. So if I make a new null object, which is now in the center of our world, we can now grab the entire leaf branch system, solo everything out, and try our best to align our centers to each other. So I can align this stem at the middle there, align it to the middle here, and then align it to the top as well there, and then parent it to our first null. And so now this one null object will control the origin of our plant system. So we can now place the plants to grow from here, and I can now do all sorts of cool stuff. We can rotate it, we can dive down the system to our helix and play with the start and end angle. And now our leaves will always grow on top of our hat like this. So I can press it up against the hat, like over here. I can almost wrap it around the hat to some degree. And then give it a little twist. And we can also always go back and scale it down if it's looking too big. All right, there we go. So we got our first little leaf system to wrap around the side of the hat. I love it. I'm going to copy it, paste it, and then put this copy somewhere else. Rotate it around a little bit. And using proceduralism, we're going to change the helix that is running these leaves. So I'm just going to change the helix type. I'm changing the start and end angle. It's like a little tornado. I'm not trying to do a tornado. Let's back up a little bit and go to our end radius, and then go to our degree turns. We can play with the height. Go to my start radius. There we go. So this one's I'm gonna use this to start wrapping around the other side of the witch hat. All right, there we go. So we got these two little coils Awesome, awesome. Next, let's make another little bushel. So for that next little bushel, I'm going to copy our little plane system. I'm going to copy it and then just paste our planes somewhere else. And let's also just go ahead and solo it out. So we have ourselves a little leaf. If we switch to polygon mode, we can see what is the front and the back side of the leaf system. And for this, we're just going to use the same process to make a little bush out of it. So I'm going to flatten this out and try my best to center the little leaf system. And for this one, we even make it a little bit longer and a little bit flatter for these leaves. And I'm just going to copy that leaf system a couple of times. And rotating things a little bit, moving stuff forward and back. I'm going to copy these two, copy them, paste them in place, rotate them a few degrees, move them around over here, scale them down. Now keep in mind that these leaves are just placeholders. What we'll be doing is we'll be painting a nice little leaf in Substance Painter, and it will be able to project really nicely onto this geometry, so that we'll get really cool leaf textures and stuff. The key important thing though is we just want to make sure that all of their center back vertices all meet up at the same point. Otherwise it will be hard to connect them logically when we jump into our AR platform of choice. And by the way, these techniques that you see here are the exact same techniques that game designers use to make video game assets. So it turns out if you're looking for a place to start when it comes to making augmented reality fashion and hats and clothing, start off looking up how to make assets compatible for games, because it is the same process. And that is kind of how it goes. Alright, so let me solo out our leaf things. So we have this little section of leaves I just made here. I'm going to copy all of them. Control C, Control V to paste. And then I'm just going to rotate that around and scale it down. And then move it so that all of those vertices also match at pretty much the same spot as well. Again, it's important that they all meet at the same location so that they transfer really nicely in different applications. Without saying all of them, I will be using this as an AR filter for multiple platforms because I want to do a little test to see which one performs the best. Okay. All right, great. So now we got ourselves a situation where we have our little hat and we have a little leaf system. So I'm going to group that leaf system together, all of it together, and then create a new null object over here. And that new null object is going to be their home for where all of them sprout from. So I'm going to move these down so that their world center is right at the center of our object. There we go. Let's go to leaf. Can you make matrix themed LiDAR? I don't think I'm understanding the question, but probably. All right, cool. So I made this little bushel here, and now with this little bushel, we can take it and place it anywhere on our character, and these will be these kind of leaves. So we can just rotate stuff and align things and make cool little leaf patterns that will also live on the hat. So I'm just going to place these along the hat. We can use the new surface modifier, the magnet surface modifier, to have it automatically snap to the surface of our model. I don't use it enough, so let me see. I actually don't even know where that modifier is. Is it this thing? Enable snapping, soft selection. Oh, that's cool. Soft selection is now just applied. That's cool. But yeah, now I can place this on different spots on the hat, and we'll have the ability. I'm just going to save my work real quick. we'll have the ability to very smoothly apply this to different things. I don't see that option there. Interesting. All right, cool. So it looks a little strange, but this is how we would go about making an asset that's pretty much ready to go in terms of the AR stuff. So now what we're going to do is save out this file and then start baking our geometry together and doing our UV unwrapping so that this will be a easy peasy process of painting. So let's do that. I'm going to go to File and save our project. And I'm going to go to File, Save Incremental, so that we're making a copy of our work as we're going. So now you see that it's now 0001. Now that that's all saved, we can go through and start doing our UV coordinates. So I'm going to connect all these planes together and go to our UV coordinate system. Looks like they're already pretty well organized. I'm just going to see Set UV from Projection, then I'll do a UV Unwrap. Great, those are all those leaves. I'm going to then pack them all together. Great, so all those leaves are all packed. We'll do the same with the other set of little bushel leaf things. So I'm going to connect all these objects and delete any other data, get rid of our UVs, grab all of them, set UVs from projection, and then we'll go to our automatic overlay. Cool, so this is basically where we can paint all the leaves ourselves in one texture, and that's what those will translate to the leaves. As long as we're painting with alpha channel, we'll be able to paint each of these leaves with a cool pattern. So that is great. Okay, let's continue on to the next UV coordinate system. Go to our little stem thing here, a more complicated setup, certainly all this little spindle, and I'm just going to go to it and do, actually I'll do both of these because I think these are both spindles. Yeah, that's both of them. Or is that just one? Huh, that kind of looks like just one of them. Oh, that's the cornucopia looking thing. Okay, so what is this? Oh, that's the bottom. So I'm going to connect these two together, connect objects and delete, and then with all that selected, we're going to set a UV from projection, and then do a UV unwrap. And then we'll use the packing algorithm to organize these really cleanly. So now those are all packed together very neatly. Awesome. We'll do the same over here. I'm going to grab all of those points and then use the packing algorithm. Oh, weird, it's not giving me an option to do that packing algorithm. Oh, there it is. Cool, so now those are all packed together. These are all now packed together, I think, missing something. There we go. And then let's grab this cornucopia piece. Huh. I don't see it being grabbed. I'm not sure what that is. Oh, that is the cornucopia. Okay, so let's just do connect objects and delete. And then we'll set a UV from projection. Oh boy, it's a little messy. Let's do a packed algorithm. Cool, so that overlaps all of the identical faces, makes it a really clean, very lightweight file to bring into AR. The last one that we got to do is unwrap the hat. So I'm going to grab all of the geometry that represents the hat. You can see it projected there in 2D space. I'm going to delete its UV coordinates, grab our hat geometry, set a UV from projection, and then let's try the packed algorithm first. Ooh, the packed algorithm did not do a good job, so we're going to have to manually unwrap this one. UV unwrapping used to be a lot scarier. It becomes friendlier with practice. That's all I can say about that. So I'm going to deselect everything and try to do the packed algorithm again. It's still a little messy, to be honest. It's actually not that bad of an unwrap, but if it actually, I'll keep it. I'll keep that. It's actually, I'm okay with where it placed the seams on our model. So now our model is pretty much all unwrapped, which means we can actually paint it, and the paints on it will work really well. But I want to keep the file size even lighter if possible. So to do that, I'm now going to make sure that all three of these texture tiles can occupy the same UV texture space, but they'll all be given a separate color channel so that I can paint them separately. So let's do that now. So I'm going to go make sure I'm going to hit File Save, because I would hate for it to crash at this point. Now I'm going to get rid of geometry that we don't really need, like the face geometry. All we really need now is the hat, at least for my purposes. Cool. And then we're going to go to our geometry that has the hat. And I'm just going to take all of these texture tiles, select all the polygons in them, and make sure that I'm resizing the UV coordinates so that they all fit. So this is going to be the little spinny leaf thing, and then this coordinate will be the front-facing leaves. So I'm just going to shrink that down so that it fits on our tile. Great, and then we have that and that. Cool, there's no overlap, that's good. Then we're going to take all of this, I'm going to push this all towards the bottom here. Yep. Great, and then we have this, which is not unwrapped. I thought we did unwrap this. Oh, there's two coordinates. Let's delete one of them and keep this one. And then this becomes the whole hat texture. So I'll grab all of that stuff. All right, so we're grabbing all of the hat stuff, and then I'm going to shrink that down to the corner. So that's going to be all of the texture space for the hat. Great, and then let's just make sure that nothing's overlapping oddly. Oh, it looks like everything's overlapping kind of oddly, so I'm going to make this really small over here. That's the little flower, and this is going to be the top little spinny thingy, and this will be those little things and that thing. And let's take this one, make this a little bit smaller. Cool, so if we did this correctly, all of this should fit onto one UV tile. Just double checking. So we've got this piece, plus this piece, plus this piece, plus this piece. Nice. It's pretty close. I'm going to now merge all this geometry so it is one layer. So I'm going to do Connect Objects and Delete. Wait, where is it? Connect Objects and Delete. So now all of this is now one single object. And that's an important detail when we're sculpting our hats for AR, so that we can work together in the different applications that I'll need these to be in. So I can now go to each little section of its polygon hierarchy, and we can draw a rectangular mask around it. So this is all the hat geometry over there, and this is our little flower, this is our little wooden spindles, and then this giant thing is some of the bigger plants that we'll see. I see lots of space to optimize this at this point, so I'm going to start to manually move these UV tiles so that we're maximizing the amount of space and resolution these are given. This will give us higher quality assets. So the size, this square is all that we get to use to texture things. And if you, oh wow, thank you so much, Evil Sajin and Marco. Oh, thank you for the spline wrap, thank you. So yeah, the amount of space that is taken up on this tile directly translates to how high quality that asset is going to be. So for example, if I made this really small like this, we would only have this many pixels allowed to paint the hat. But since I want to see the hat in a lot of detail, I wanted to occupy more of the UV space, which in this case is just taking up more area. And for areas that people see the most closely, you should honestly give those the most resolution. So for example, this giant circle here, no one's going to be seeing this part of the model because it's hidden in a spot that they're not going to see. So I'm going to delete that because that's just wasted resolution that we could be using for other parts of the model. Like for example, this part, the front of the hat, think people are going to see this probably the most. So I might want to give this even more resolution than the other parts of the hat. But keep in mind, if you're going to scale any part of the hat, you want to scale it uniformly. Otherwise, you will run into some weird issues where stuff just doesn't look quite right. But these little leaves, for example, are really tiny. So they don't, in 3D space, they're really tiny. So we actually don't need this much resolution for the leaves because they're small in actuality. So I'm going to take those leaves and resize them so they're nice and tiny and fit them into a spot like right here where we actually can afford to use that resolution for another part of the model. It's all about stacking your UVs in creative ways. And then this leaf is also gigantic. We don't really need that much resolution for that leaf, so I'm just going to shrink that down myself to be a little bit smaller, like this. And by doing all of that little optimizations, we can now take all of the top half and move it up. Oh, and I'm noticing all these little circles. I don't know what these are, so we should find them. Okay, looks like there's some faces on all of these that we're not really using. So same idea as before, any faces that you're not really using, we need to delete those. We can't afford those when we're designing for AR. So I'm going to delete polygons that people don't see because it's just wasted memory. And now we have so much more space for the hat. I'm going to grab all of the hat geometry and then increase the size of the UV tile. So look at that. We now have a highly optimized asset where we have one texture tile that's going to represent all of the surfaces of this hat, and it's heavily optimized so that everything's unwrapped will be really clean and really easy to paint. So I'm going to save this project and pat myself on the back because I'm happy with the way this came out. And then what we're going to do is take a break. So I need to eat some food, eat some lunch. So I'm gonna stop for now for the live stream. We'll probably pick this back up in a little bit after I eat, but I did need to get this part done for now. So we'll just end the stream, and I'll make this up. You know, for what we saw, it's part 1 was 3D modeling the hat. In part 2, we're gonna be sculpting extremely high detailed stuff in Zbrush onto this hat that we will be later projecting onto the model as a height map, as a normal map, so that we get all of our best of both worlds. But that's how I would go about sculpting this customized hat from scratch using Cinema 4D. Again, just repeating some stuff for those that are just trickling in. We'll be picking up where we left off later on, and I'll see you hopefully in the next live stream. So thank you so much for tuning in, and I will talk to you very soon. So that is all that we got today, and then we're going to be turning this into higher resolution models. What about the spider web? Oh, good catch. I don't know where to add it, but maybe we can add it connecting this part of the head to there. In that case, I'll just put a single plane, a single giant polygon as a square right there. Actually, I'll just do that right now. We'll end with where the spider web's going to go. So for the spider web, what we would do is just go to a front orthographic view, or I'll just do a side orthographic view like this. And I'll use the poly pen, which is ME, and I just start drawing a single polygon like this. Now with this single polygon in here, we go to a perspective view, and I want to resize and refit this polygon so that our spider web has a home. So I'm just trying to put these points, attach them to other existing points on the model. Oh crap, it's actually attaching it. I don't want it to do that. Let me undo that. So yeah, I'll do this on a separate layer first. That might help. So you just create my little rectangle to 3 and 4, and close the loop, and then we could place this onto different parts of the model. And so it's going to look kind of weird right now because it's like, what is this giant polygon doing? Isn't it going to be blocking stuff? And the answer is no, it's actually not going to block anything because we can paint with what's called an alpha channel. An alpha channel is transparent data. So we will be able to just paint a spider web in white on this giant polygon and then turn everything else black. And then we'll be able to essentially paint a spider web that lives in 3D space, attaches to the hat, and doesn't actually, doesn't really obtrude on other parts of the model. So I just attached the spider web to the corners there. I'm just making sure that it's all attached. So this is going to be one giant polygon that's going to represent a spider web. And and now that that's done, we can grab that polygon, go to our UV unwrap. So now we have this single polygon here. I'm going to grab that polygon, with the selection tool. And then we need to combine it with the rest of the hat. So I'm going to grab that polygon in the UV coordinate system here and shrink it down to size. And then combine that with this guy by doing connect objects and delete. And now it's all in one plane. They're all part of the same model. And I can give even more resolution to the spider web by having it take up more of the UV space. And we can even rotate it too if it helps it fit into the scene a bit better. There we go. So what that means is in any program we'll just need to paint a spider web and then it will live on there as an alpha channel. So that's how we would add that spider web. Okay, that's all. I'm gonna go take a break now, get some lunch, and we'll be back to sculpt a lot more details in Zbrush, and we'll be also adding paint and materials with Substance Painter, and then we'll be bringing all of that back into Cinema 4D for rigging and animating the hat to create a little bit of life into its motion. All right, that is all. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I'll see you all in the next one. Bye-bye.